quality of B.Sc Zoology. Hair develops from hair follicles, epidermal invaginations that frequently extend into hypodermis. They are enveloped in a basement membrane, known as glossy membrane, which is surrounded by dermally derived connective tissue membrane. There are several components of hair follicle. The hair root is an enlarged, hollow terminus whose concavity is occupied by a vascular connective tissue element known as dermal papillae. The two together are known as hair bulb. The core of hair root consists of cells known as matrix. The mitotic activity of these cells is responsible for hair growth. Immediately deep to the glossy membrane is a single layer of cells at the hair bulb that increases in number in the vicinity of stratum corneum. This layer of cell is known as external root sheath. The internal root sheath surrounded by external root sheath is composed of three layers of cells: hingeless layer, hexless layer, and the deepest layer, the cuticle of internal root sheath. The internal root sheath develops from the most peripheral cells of the matrix. It extends from the matrix to where the duct of sebaceous gland enters the hair canal. The absence of internal root sheath from that point leaves a space known as canal of hair follicle. The hair shaft, the part of hair follicle that extends to the epidermis, has three layers. The most peripheral is the cuticle of hair, which arises from peripheral cell of the matrix. Slightly peripheral, the cortex arises from the cell of the matrix peripheral to the center. During their migration away from their site of origin, the cells of the cortex manufacture and accumulate keratin filaments that becomes embedded in a matrix of trichlorohyaline, a substance similar to keratohyaline of stratum granulosum, and forms the hard keratin characteristics of hair shaft. The central core of hair shaft, the medulla, arises from the most central cells of matrix. The medulla is developed by the cells of cortex as the hair shaft extends above the skin surface. Erector pili. Erector pili are smooth muscle bundles that insert into the papillary layer of dermis and at an oblique angle into the connective tissue sheath surrounding the external root sheath of a hair follicle. When these smooth muscle cells contract, they raise the hair shaft and depress the skin at the site of muscle attachment. The non-depressed region of the epidermis seems to be elevated, giving the appearance of goosebump. Functions of hair and distribution of hairs on our body. They help to maintain warmness. Hair gives alert to us when an insect crawls over our body. They guard the scalp against physical trauma. They guard our skin from heat loss and sunlight. Hair distribution is on entire skin surface of our body except our palms, sole, lips, nipples and some portions of external genitalia. There is no presence of hairs on a body. On skin, you will find different types of four glands. Sebaceous gland that connected to hair follicle, they secrete waxy, oily substance that is called sebum, and they are responsible for production of a blackhead. The secretion increases at puberty. Then there is a sweat gland that found just about everywhere on our skin. These glands are responsible for respiration. They produce water, salt and metabolic waste is excreted over the skin in the form of a sweat. The functioning of sweat gland is cooling of the body. Another one gland is a scent gland. A specific type of sweat gland they found near hair follicle at the axillary and genital region. They develop at puberty. They produce a particular scent, or we called it as a pheromone. Sebaceous glands, they are holocrine glands that are associated with the hair follicles. The duct of these glands empty their secretion product, the oily sebum, into the canal of hair follicle. They are located only in a globurous, hairy skin. The most peripheral cells of these globular glands are flat. They sit on a basement membrane and undergo the cell division to produce more flat cells and larger round cells. The larger cells are centrally located and they accumulate lipid droplets that eventually display organelles of a cell, causing their degeneration, necrosis, and transformation into sebum that coats the hair shaft and skin surface. Sebum makes the hair less brittle, the skin more slippery. Sebaceous glands, similar to apocrine sweat gland, are under hormonal control and become more active after puberty. Almost 4 million eccrine sweat glands are distributed throughout the most of the skin covering of the body. Each of these simple colloid tubular glands is an ectodermal derivative that grows down through the epidermis and dermis and frequently enters the hypodermis. There it forms the highly coiled merocrine secretory portion of the gland. Arising from the secretory portion is the narrower corkscrew-shaped duct that pierces the tip or crest of dermal ridge and enter the epidermis to end at its free surface as a sweat pore. The simple cuboidal to low columnar epithelium of the secretory portion is composed of dark cells and clear cells. Myoepithelial cells rich in actin and myosin filaments surrounds the cells of secretory portion, assisting in the expression of sweat from its lumen. Dark cells, also called as mucoid cells, they can be viewed through electron microscopes and they see like pyramidal in shape, where the base is at the lumen and the apex of cell may or may not reach the basal lamella. These cells manufacture and release a mucus type of secretion. Another one is the clear cells. They are similar in shape to dark cells, with their bases abducting the basal lamella and their apex barely reaching the lumen. These cells exhibit a rich glycogen content and an intricately folded basal plasmolemma on electromicrograph, indicative of participating in epithelial transport. These cells manufacture and release into the lumen a serous secretory product. The stratified cuboidal epithelium of eccrine sweat gland duct is composed of a basal with numerous mitochondria and a luminal layer with a scant amount of cytoplasm and an irregularly shaped nucleus. Sweat produced by the secretory portion is more or less isoosmotic with plasma, but the cells of the duct portions conserve sodium, chloride, potassium, and excrete lactic acid, urea, and some ingested material, such as certain drugs and the essence of garlic. Apocrine sweat glands. They are similar to eccrine sweat gland but much larger than they and are located in a armpit, axilla, areola of a nipple and circummalar area. Despite their name, they most probably secrete via the merocrine mode. They begin secretion only after puberty. They are associated with and deliver their secretory product into the canal of hair follicle and in some women undergo periodic alternation associated with the menstrual cycle. Although their secretion is odorless, bacterial metabolism converts it into an odoriferous substance, 3-methyl-1,2-hexanoic acid, which may have pheromonal property. There are certain modified apocrine sweat glands in the external ear canal, wax-producing circuminous glands, and the glands of mole in the eyelid. The skin contains numerous sensory receptors that are peripheral terminals of sensory neuron. The most numerous of these are free nerve ending in the epidermis. Free nerve ending also occurs in the dermis. The free nerve endings in the epidermis extend as far as the stratum granulosum. Other nerve endings are enclosed in a capsule. These encapsulated nerve endings include Pacinian corpuscles, Meissner's corpuscles. Pacinian corpuscles are large ovoid structures measuring 1 micrometer or more in their long axis. They contain the terminations of myelinated nerve fibers. Once within the capsules, only the initial part of nerve fibers retains its myelin cover. The terminal part of the fiber is unmyelinated. The nerve fibers occupies an axial position within the corpuscle. It is surrounded by layers or lamellae of flat cells that are continuous with the endoneurium. Between the flatted cells are space considered to be filled with fluid. In section, the Pacinian corpuscles bear some resemblance to the cut face of an onion. Pacinian corpuscles are pressure receptors. They are found in connective tissues of skin, especially skin that has great sensitivity such as the fingertips, in the hypodermis, and in general in connective tissue throughout the body. Meissner's corpuscles are found in the dermis of skin. Being especially numerous in a finger and toes, they are generally cylindrical in shape, measuring about 150 micrometer in their long axis. They consist of supporting cells which are thought to be modified Schwann cells and the unmyelinated terminal or terminus of different nerve fibers. The supporting cells and the nerve fibers zigzag through the corpuscles. Meissner corpuscles are tactile receptors. They are located immediately under the epidermis. General functions of the integument. There are different categories are made for the functioning of skin integuments, that is protection, thermoregulation, absorption, sensory role, synthetic role, secretion, storage, the water balance maintenance. The skin contribute different functions apart from these. In this, the most important is the protection. As a protective wrapping, the skin maintains the shape and size of body and accommodates itself to change in the shape and size because of being highly elastic. It provides protection against the mechanical forces such as stretching or pulling. The stratum corneum of epidermis, being composed of non-living, hard and resistant cells, constitute the first line of defense of body against bacterial invasion, mechanical, chemical and physical injuries. The skin thus constitutes an effective barrier against the diffusion of gases, water and noxious chemicals. The unbroken skin is a most germ-proof and possesses immunizing power. It prevents water loss or dehydration and protects the body from drying and desiccation. Skin serves as effective screen against ultraviolet radiation. Pigmentation of skin protects the underlying tissue against the potentially deleterious effect of solar radiations. The prime function of pigment is to shield the cells by absorbing the ultraviolet rays of sun. Next function is a thermoregulation. The skin controls the body temperature by varying peripheral blood flow. The quantity of heat loss or conserved is perfectly regulated by controlling the blood flow and blood contained in the skin by vasomotor mechanism. When the external environment is warm, the blood vessel aid in a cooling process by relaxing and permitting flow of blood through the skin. On the other hand, when environment is cold, the vessel contract rapidly and greatly reduce the blood flow in the skin, thus conserving the internal body heat. By sweat secretion also, they maintain temperature. The sweat gland pours water over the surface of skin. The evaporation of sweat takes place a large amount of heat from the body and cool blood circulating through the skin surface. By hair elevation, hairs, although not of much importance to man, act as a non-conductor of heat and help maintain the heat balance. The fur and hair cover the skin in primates and non-human mammals, provide protective insulation against the harsh environment. By insulation by fat, the adipose tissue under the skin being non-conductor of heat, they also maintain temperature balance. The function of skin is absorption. This refers to the penetration and transepidermal transport of substances through the skin and into the bloodstream. Although the skin is general form a barrier against the penetration of chemical substance, this barrier is not complete. It is now definitely known that certain gases, lipids, lipid-soluble substances such as vitamins are easily absorbed through the skin, but the skin remains essentially impermeable to electrolytes and water. Some absorption also takes place through hair follicle of a skin. The skin absorbs in varying degree. Skin also plays a sensory role. The sensory function of skin play an important role in our day-to-day work. Sensory appreciation of environment is achieved by extra receptor present in abundance in the skin. The skin is sensitive to pain, including itch and tickle, pursued by free nerve ending in the skin. Sense of light touch is attributed to the Meissner's corpuscles, and thermal sensation are attributed to Ruffini corpuscles, and pressure sensation attributes to the Pacinian corpuscles. Skin also plays a synthetic role. They produce vitamin D. The sunshine vitamin D is synthesized from provitamin 7 dehydrocholesterol, a sterol present in a skin surface. This compound is activated by the action of ultraviolet rays of sun and change into vitamin D. The latter is absorbed into the bloodstream and mediate the absorption of calcium from the intestine and deposition of inorganic minerals like calcium and phosphorus in growing bones. The skin also manufactures many other substances such as keratin and the pigment melanin from tyrosine, responsible for skin coloration. Keratinization is important to maintain the skin in a healthy state. Skin also functions as excretory organ. The skin is frequently said to have minor excretory role, though sweat and insensible perspiration with salts, water and various catabolic waste are excreted through skin. Another function of skin is a secretion. The sebus, that is sebum producing, sudorific, that is sweat producing, and mammary, that is milk producing glands are all involved in secretion. The sebum keeps the skin greasy and prevent unnecessary drying of skin. Another function of skin is a storage. The skin acts as a storing organ. The dermis as well as subcutaneous tissue have capacity to store fat, water and other such substances as tyrosine and cholesterol. Skin also maintains water balance. The skin helps in retaining body fluid. It helps in a regulation of water balance of a body through sweating and insensible perspiration. The skin also helps in maintaining blood pressure. As it has a rich vascularization, it can regulate blood pressure through the process of vasoconstrictions and vasodilation.